Sorry about that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Google Hangout. I want to welcome Jay Campbell with the Monica Diaz team. He's a part of the Keller Williams Covina. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Wendy, Anusha, and Scott. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, lucky to have you here. And I also want to introduce Scott Cirali. He is going to be hosting our Google Hangout for us throughout the next hour. And today, I just want to take a little bit of a time to explain what the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Google Hangout is all about. And our topic is going to be how to build a team. So really, this is a 4-day step. So it's 4 steps. It's going to take 4 days for us to accomplish it. So today is going to be our day number 1. And we have a special guest. Her name is Anusha. She is our operating principal for Keller Williams Covina, and she has a team at the Palmdale Keller Williams, a team of 6. And I want to welcome her on. Anusha?
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having me on today. It's good to see all of you. It's good to see you, Jay.
How you
nice
doing?
meeting you, Scott.
Nice to meet you, too.
So let's go ahead and just start by asking you, Anusha, tell us, how long have you been in the business for?
I've been in the business for 5 years.
5 years.
Started in 2009, yes.
Okay, now, were you an agent somewhere else before you came on board to Keller Williams?
No, I actually had my own business doing decorative pillows and selling them to department stores.
Okay.
So, no, it was not.
What made you get into real estate?
Well, I was running my own business and had the flexibility of my time doing that. I was married at the time, went through a divorce, and a pretty bad divorce, and I realized that I didn't want to work for a company or I wanted my own freedom, and I wanted to create my own wealth, and got into real estate. I knew I could do that.
Got it. Got it. So tell us a little bit about, your business in the last 3 years. I mean, I was telling everyone, at the beginning of our week, letting them know that you built a team. You've been in the business for 5 years, but you built a team within the last 3 years. How did that even start? Like, what made you think about building a team?
Well, I have a goal. I have, my goal is called 40 by 40, and I knew working by myself as an agent, doing the admin work, doing all the phone calls, taking them out and driving them around and showing them properties, wasn't going to ever get there. I was working 13, 14, 15-hour days, long hours, and I knew I had to leverage myself. I didn't know how to do it, but I knew I had to leverage myself in order to grow and do the other things that I'm really passionate about and wanted to do as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a new agent, I'm really curious to hear, what was your first and your second year like? I mean, what kind of volume did you do?
My first year, I actually closed 43 deals, and by the time I got into my second year, I was a little bit over at 73 or 74 deals by my second year.
Wow.
And it was stress. I was working a lot of hours till 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and getting in super early in the morning. And so I knew by the second year that I really needed good help.
Now, were you ever on a team or anything like this, or were these deals, all on your own?
No, I was on a team. My first year into real estate, the first 2 months I was on my own. I had closed 5 transactions on my own. And I had one of the teams come up to me and ask if I would join their team as a buyer's agent, which I did. And so I joined their team as a buyer's agent. It was a heavy REO market and short sales, and I worked with them.
Mm-hmm. And was that one of the reasons why it secured, 73 transactions the second year? I mean, that really is unheard of. I mean, usually buyer's agents, you don't close 73 transactions on your second year as an agent. So what was it that made it so, easy for you?
My big why, my goals, I mean, I had to. There was no there were no reasons, or I had to hit a certain number of deals because I was on a team, it was a 50-50 split, and I'm in the Antelope Valley, where the average price point at that time when I was on the team was $95,000 to $100,000, and 50% of that commission was not enough to pay the bills. So I had to close at least 10 deals a month to be able to hit my, be able to afford my bills and still do everything else that I wanted to do. And some of the leads did come from the team. I was very heavy into door knocking and short sales. I never really liked getting on the phone and making the phone calls lead generating. I liked to be out there door knocking and holding seminars and doing it that way. And so that's what I did, and that's how my second year I ended up growing even more.
Okay, now was it scary for you? Was it scary for you to make the decision that you wanted to go off on your own and leave the team? I mean, usually a buyer's agent stays on board for a solid, I've seen it 5 years, even longer than 5 years. But you did it in 2 years and decided you wanted to go off on your own.
Well, the team we kind of dissolved a little bit. The team leader ended up taking a really good opportunity in Northern California and left. And so we all kind of decided to go our own ways. And I started to build my own team from there and made a lot of mistakes along the way. However, it was the fear that drove me to do it because I couldn't fail. I had to get deals going.
Well, talk a little bit more about the things that you did at the beginning, maybe some of the mistakes that you actually made, and what, in hindsight, you'd be doing differently if you were starting a team right now.
I always knew that the model was there, and I was in productivity coaching. Our office did provide that for us, so I was in productivity coaching, and I knew how important it was to follow the systems and models. Yet I'm stubborn, and I thought I could invent it on my own. And so my first hire was an admin. And it was the wrong hire. It was a friend, and so I didn't really do it the right way. And then I ended up bringing on a showing assistant because I thought, I just got back from family reunion and they were talking about showing assistant, and I jumped ahead of myself and I did bring on a showing assistant, and that worked out really well originally because they were out in the field with the buyers all day long. I worked with a lot of investors. And I was out there taking short sale listings. However, all the paperwork was just piling up, and nothing was getting done with paperwork, and I don't like paperwork. So that ended up becoming a disaster as well. So then I finally sat down and said, you know what, let me look into this MAPS coaching, which I was pushed towards that, and it ended up being my savior. I did start following the models the right way, and now I've got my team.
Anusha, question for you. I get asked a lot from a lot of agents, how many closed transactions were you doing before you realized that you needed to have your first hire?
It was my first year I knew I needed somebody. I just never got it and never hired that person. My first year after closing 43, I was already going crazy and knew I need somebody to do this because I'm going to burn out. I can't do this year after year, or even week after week. So in my second year is when I did bring in somebody to help the assistant and the showing assistant, and it wasn't right. They were both overwhelmed. I wasn't organized. I didn't have systems in place. And it was my third year where I started putting everything in, implementing it the right way.
So your third year, you decided that you realized you needed some help, and you started some coaching. So you got a little bit of clarity of what direction you needed to go with. So let me ask you something. So you said you hired a showing agent at the very beginning, and that was the mistake. When you started coaching, what did you realize needed to be your first hire?
An assistant.
An assistant. Okay, and how were you able to advertise for them? Like, what was the first step you needed to do when you decided you were going to hire an assistant?
Well, before I was talking to friends and talking to other agents and who do you know that and I was going in that route, and I had friends calling me and saying that they wanted the job, and they knew I was closing a lot of deals, and so I finally started just getting what the job description looked like, an actual job description of the executive assistant. And I posted that everywhere, on LinkedIn, on Indeed, on just anywhere that I could post it. And I hadn't been through what we have here at Keller Williams called the recruit select process. So I actually brought in a consulting company to do the recruit select process with them to make sure that it was the right hire for me. And then I interviewed them after that and checked all the references and went really deep with the person and took a lot of time to make sure that they know, they have a real estate background of some sort. What were they doing in their past? What do they want to do in their future? And I really dug deep with them. And I took that time because normally I just, fire real quick. I just hire somebody real quick and then it's just throw them in there. I don't have time to train them. And I couldn't go through this disaster again.
Okay. Well, you said a lot of things right now, and I know that some of the audience is not Kellerized, and Recruit Select is a foreign language. So, what exactly does that mean? When you say Recruit Select process?
There's studies that have been done that there's a certain type, personality type, and that each role fits, like a buyer's agent, a showing agent, an assistant, and they're proven. And they go through this entire process with them to see, is this what they really want? Are they the right candidate for the role? And it's a really important process, and that's what Recruit Select does. It selects the right candidate for the role.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a screen on here and show everybody what exactly the 4 personality traits are. So, go ahead and... Where is it? Sorry. How do I... Here it is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you. So here's the behavioral requirements, right? A chart from an ABA that we use for an executive assistant, and this is one of the assessments that we do. But there's another thing that we call a DISC, and it's for behavioral requirements. And it says that you would want to hire someone that's a preferred SC, SCD, or SCI. Anusha, can you tell us a little bit about what exactly that means? I'm going to pull up a chart of dimensions of behavior.
Yeah, well, the DISC is really important because so somebody that's an S, they're stable, they're steady, they don't like a lot of change, they're loyal, they're patient, they're somebody you can count on. And somebody with an I is somebody who is influential. They're like the one that walks in, when they walk into a party or whatever, they're like the center of attention. They're friendly, they're enthusiastic, they're pretty much always in a good mood, very easy to speak to and talk to. And then of course you want somebody that has that C in them, which is they're really compliant, and that's really important for paperwork. They're accurate. It's like engineers and an accountant. So it's really important that they have a mixture of those 3 personalities so that when they are communicating with their clients, they're not communicating maybe in a way that you would, very fast-paced and very straight to the point. They're more caring with the client, more hands-on with the client, and their C is they're making sure that you're doing all the paperwork correctly, all your I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And the S is you want somebody who's going to be with you long term, 5 years or more.
Right.
3 to 5 years, and then and then they have that ambition, they have the goals to want to stay longer.
Mm-hmm. Jay, do you have any questions for her in regards to any of the things we've covered so far?
No, not really. I mean, everything she says I think is good, especially from, the people that are going to watch this in replay, because I think you guys know, and Scott can add to this, the majority of people that watch these Hangouts, especially during the course of the business day, will watch them in a rerun. So I think it's just really good for, people that are already agents, maybe more entry level and not as accomplished, and even for accomplished agents, just to get a good understanding of what Anusha, how Anusha works, and how Anusha has built her business. So I think it's all good stuff.
Anusha, I got a quick question for you. how important do you think it is from when you first hired your assistant and showing agent that didn't work out, and then when you hired an assistant again and it did work out, how important do you think it is that the fact that you had the knowledge of these systems and you had systems in place finally when you were bringing this person in, that you can actually train them correctly and give them support compared to before and what you were doing? Tell me about that a little bit.
I mean, I think it's extremely important because it did set me back. I get disappointed and frustrated with myself when I look at that and say I just jumped in and hired because I needed to fill a position and I knew I needed it, that I just jumped in and did the hires without really going through the systems and the process. Why reinvent the wheel when it's there already and successfully proved? And what I found is in going and just hiring not right for the role, it set me back. You know, it set me back and it set my business back, and I'm trying to move forward. So in taking the time to do the hires the right way and give them the tools that they need, it's very important to me that my assistant is in coaching. She's going through coaching. It's important to me that my team is in coaching. We're all in coaching. It's really important because everybody is seeing what the vision is, and we're all on the same path, and we're all, you know, going through the same systems and the training. And if you're not doing that, you do have problems. I'm not always here. And I can't always, you know, and I don't want it when I step away that everything falls apart. It should be able to run itself whether I'm here or not. And so it's really important to follow systems, to do the hiring process the right way. It's more expensive in the long run if you don't.
Right. So this really, you know, you're able to set up your employees then as you hire them for success, correct?
Correct.
And so why don't you jump into what was your next hire then after you put the assistant in place? All of a sudden now you're able to leverage yourself, get a lot of things off your plate, especially the paperwork. I'm assuming that part you don't like. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I hate the paperwork. I don't like it. So my assistant is great at the paperwork part of it. They know what my weaknesses are when it comes to that, and that's their strength, so that's great. And I was able to do it the right way. My next hire was a showing assistant, and actually now, you know, 2 showing assistants. And they were out in the field all day showing and just showing buyers after buyer after buyer. My buyers knew it from the very beginning that it was my showing assistant, who I would refer to as my partner, that would end up showing them the properties. And I was able to then move forward and go take more listings, what I love doing, and do other things and look at other opportunities that I wanted to do. All the paperwork was being handled, and the buyers were out there in the field looking at properties, and all I did was the negotiating.
Now, Anusha, tell us, what's the script or what is the dialogue that you use with your clients? A lot of people are afraid to start a team or to leverage themselves because they feel like they're not giving their clients the full service because the client hires them, it doesn't hire your buyer's agent.
Yeah, well, you know, I was like that too. I'm very controlling. I could be very controlling. So I was that same way. It took a lot for me to let go. And what I realized was the client is not loyal to me. They're actually loyal to the service you provide. I could be gone on vacation and I could think that it's my best client, my favorite client, and come back and realize they've already bought a home with somebody else because they drove by and saw a sign and they called on the sign. So they're actually loyal to the service that you provide to them. They're here to either buy or to sell or to invest in real estate. That is their objective. And when I meet my client for the first time, when I'm talking to him on the phone, I let them know that I have a team and I will be negotiating on their behalf. However, my showing agent will take them out, show them whatever properties they want to look at. And if they have any questions, if there's any, you know, they can talk to anybody on my team. And that I'm going to be here for them. I'm here to negotiate, make sure they get the best price, get the best deal, and get the best offer on their property. And they know that from the beginning, and if that expectation is set from the beginning, then they're not expecting me to be the one to show that they're not disappointed.
Got it. Now, is there a difference?
I think that's really important to let them know, letting them know that in the beginning. And it gives them more, you know, if I'm out there showing them property.
Are you there? I think we lost you for a minute.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between a buyer's agent and a showing agent? What does that mean?
Well, the showing agent is just showing the properties, opening the doors, showing them the properties. The showing agent is not talking to them and negotiating pricing with them. The showing agent is not. Now, the showing agent is just the one that's building that relationship with them. You know, the showing agent is a high I and an S. So the showing agent is just building that relationship with them, and then the buyer's agent can come in and close the deal with them. So they're not talking price. Buyer's agents are in the office either or out in the field, either door knocking, holding open houses, or prospecting.
Now, is a showing agent licensed, or and what is the compensation that you use for your showing agents?
Showing agents are licensed and or working on their license. Showing agents, everybody does it differently. I do a percentage. My showing agents get 15% of the transaction.
Nice. And your showing agent, how do you do your pay structure on that? What's the compensation on a team? You know, I think people are afraid to go on a team because they have to give up so much of their commission. However, what are the benefits to it, and what's the compensation?
Well, the benefits of, you know, on leads, they're going to be closing more leads than they may have or probably were on their team, and then they're also being leveraged. Paperwork is being leveraged for them. They're coming on to a team that has an assistant, it has structure, it has showing assistants for them. You know, the database we have lead generators. I have an inside sales agent that's lead generating 1,000 phone calls a month. So they're getting and being fed approved leads. They're not working with clients to get them approved. They're already coming to them approved. All they have to do is close the deal, really. The compensation is, you know, the showing agents get 15%. My buyer's agents are on 40% splits.
Got it.
Hey,
And go ahead.
They don't pay. The buyer's agent doesn't pay. The buyer's agent does not pay the assistant. Buyer's agent doesn't pay. I take on all of that.
Hey, Anusha, it's Jay. Real quick, another question for you. And Scott and I were talking about this before on the call before you guys joined, but Monica and I are having a real issue hiring like a telephone prospector, or in the millionaire agent, in the millionaire model, it's a lead prospector, right? So
right.
How did you do that? Or like, what, are you using somebody? I mean, I was originally going to use a virtual assistant from the Philippines, and we went through the process, and it's not worked out as well as we intended. I'm not completely averse to giving up on it, but as of right now, we've given up. But how do you find somebody that you can train to call your database, and then obviously, you spend time with them going over scripts and all that? Like, what is, in your opinion, the easiest way to find somebody? Because it seems like to Monica and I that is the missing piece.
Okay, so I agree with you on my first virtual assistant was from the Philippines, and I had issues because of typhoons or monsoons or whatever problems they were having with the weather and just the language. However, and I didn't use them again for another whole year, and we were doing it here, within the office. However, the last, I want to say 7 months, I have hired my virtual assistant, who is our inside sales agent, which is from the Philippines actually, and I used my Outdesk. I don't know if you're familiar with my Outdesk.
Yeah. We just went through a 3-week process with my Outdesk with Frank's company, 1000callsaday.com, and there's guys that are using it and having amazing success, but our caller was so bad that I got people inside my database, and they're like, Jay and Monica, you cannot have them calling your people. I mean, I'm telling you.
Right.
So we have this
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's really important because you don't want your clients to feel that way. And what I did was interviewed multiple candidates and I did video conferencing calls with them and made sure that their accent wasn't, it was Americanized, and and that they had a huge sales background. And the person that I did hire, his name is Rico, and I did end up hiring him. You can't even tell that he is from the Philippines. It sounds like he's calling from here. He is using our local phone number since I have Ring Central.
I think you just hit on something that we made the mistake. You just let me know, and that's the sales background. I think that our caller didn't have the sales background. She's got a good voice. She speaks well. Her English is pretty strong. But I think that,
Yeah, Jay, they got to have that conversation, though, where you get on the phone with them and you just kind of wing it and see how they are able to communicate back with you. I think that's really important based on what you told me.
It's weird because Monica did a lot of role play with her for 2 weeks. I mean, she had like 6 intensive role plays, and it didn't seem as bad. But then, you let them go, and they start calling people, and they can't get on their feet, and it becomes a disaster. And then we're like, oh my God, we can't have this person calling our contact.
Right, because that's your database, that's your clients. It reflects on you exactly. And that's what was really important, make sure they had a sales background, a very solid sales background. He actually worked for AT&T, and after that, or IBM and then AT&T. So had a really strong sales background.
So you don't think then that we should technically give up on this whole My Outlook, that we should just keep interviewing?
My Outdesk, yeah, I actually gave up, and I came back to them out of frustration. Like, I need to have this person making 1,000 calls a month, setting 5 appointments for my buyer's agents a week and 5 listing appointments a week. And yes, and he's phenomenal. In fact, Jay, I'm more than happy to have you speak to him whenever you want.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, because we're so frustrated because I just spent 3 months dialing in Infusionsoft, getting everything sequenced and all that, and this was like the missing piece, and we thought she was ready, and then it's just like having the carpet or the rug pulled out from under you,
Right. And I was torn between that. I've read statistics where it says that it's harder for a client to hang up on a woman than it is for a man. So I was like, should I hire a girl because of their voice? However, he doesn't let you hang up the phone.
Right. That's awesome.
So.
I mean, I desperately. Do you think it's worth then? Because right now we're just like you, right? We walked away. I mean, Frank's going to refund us the money. Do you think it's worth running ads on Craigslist or other places and try to find somebody here, or do you think it's just going to be too expensive and it won't pencil?
I think it makes more sense hiring somebody like what I did through the Philippines, because honestly it is cheaper. And if they have their backup system, and I forgot what it's called, but my guy has his full, if the power goes out, which they just had a huge weather storm, he was a generator. He was still hooked up to a generator. And that was really important to me, to know that he was going to be able to continuously make those phone calls no matter what. And I think these people have really high S's, and your inside sales agent needs to have a really high S. They need to be very loyal to you and stable, and not have regular, don't show up to work today and things like that. And it was important for me to have somebody that was going to commit 8 hours a day to lead generating, and that's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, Frank's company that, and they're doing, it's the same, everybody has the same model. They use the Philippines, it's through My Outdesk. They're going to do 1,000 calls a day, and, Scott can attest, they have guys that have great success on it, and so I don't want to give up, but
I think you find the right person.
How much do you, I mean, these are all really good questions, and so anybody that watches this rerun is going to get value out of this, but how much do you think you pay right now, Anusha, to your caller a month, on average?
A month or a week? Well, an hour. I pay $8 an hour.
Right, but I mean, how much does he end up making 1,000 calls a month, or does he make 500 calls, or? He has to make it. That my contract is written to where 1,000 connects have to be made a month, or something is going on.
So he is making 1,000 connects a month, actually speaking to them, not just the phone calls. It's through, I'm using Ring Central, so everything is being recorded. I can go back and I can listen. And he's really good at the appointment setting. And he's already set up listing appointments, multiple listing appointments for me. In fact, I've had to switch my calendar around to accommodate what he's doing, because I have set spots in my calendar for listing appointments. And I've had to make some adjustments so that he could go in there and do it.
This is all awesome, by the way. Does he work inside the CRM that you use, and he leaves all?
He works inside my E-Edge, my market leader.
Okay. I have a question for you. What if you said you didn't have so much success the very first time around. What happened if, whoever you hired didn't make the calls? Wasn't able to do the 1,000 connecting calls. What happened then?
There was no accountability at that. There was no accountability. There was no visual. There was nothing. And I made that mistake. And when the weather, every other week, they would have something going on, and I couldn't ever reach them. It would take weeks to get back. So what I did this time was, of course, it's all through. I have Skype. He's online even right now. He's online. I can see him down there, and my whole team can see him, so we all have Skype on our phone. If there's something urgent he needs to get in touch with one of us, he's just texting. We can all reach him. He clocks in the morning, he clocks out in the evening. He sends me a full update at the end of the day. We can all see it. I actually have his hours to where he comes in at 9 a.m. and leaves at 7 p.m. in the evening. So there's, he's there, and he takes his 1 hour lunch, and he sends us a message when he's at lunch. And there's a lot of accountability, and it came out of fear, really, because I didn't want to go through that experience again. And Jay, I knew I needed somebody to be there doing the lead, prospecting 8 hours a day if I'm going to hit the results I want to hit.
Yeah, it's honestly the real missing piece for Monica and I right now, because I have everything else from a marketing and digital standpoint dialed in. But does he try to get 40 hours a week, or do you try to get him 30 hours a week, or
40 hours a week, 40 hours a week. And he sent me a message this morning saying he said he was going to come in this weekend and just do hours, use his own hours just to make sure he's doing the follow-up notes and things like that. He's actually very engaged and loves it. I have him sit in on our team meetings. We have team meetings on Fridays, and he sits in on our team meetings through Skype.
So
he's on and he watches the entire thing. Huh?
You need to clone this guy, or find his
clone this guy. Exactly.
Send him to us, and he's hired tomorrow. I mean, honestly, like, we need somebody so bad. Like, I didn't even sleep 2 nights ago when this thing unraveled. When I got that call, I was shaking for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's stress. It's a lot of stress. If you're not lead generating, you're not producing business, right? So yes, it's stressful.
So let's just recap a little bit, and about what we've covered so far. So we've covered step 1, which is what's the very first hire, and what you went through in order to get there, and how to hire your very first hire. And it is the most important piece to the puzzle. I want everybody to understand that. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book talks about your very first hire is your most important hire. So then we talked about how you got a buyer's agent and a showing agent. So now you've got 3 people. Who else did you bring on after that? Was it the telemarketer as the number 4, or did you hire a telemarketer way before then?
That was this telemarketer, Rico, that was my last hire. I'm looking now to replace myself and hire somebody to replace myself so that I could move on to the next level. And that's where my focus is right now. After my assistant and my showing assistant, I brought on another showing assistant, and the showing assistant that I had moved up to be a buyer's agent. So, so I brought on another. So now I have 2 showing assistants and a buyer's agent full-time.
Can you repeat that one more time?
I have 2 showing assistants and a buyer's agent full-time.
Got it. And your telemarketer?
Exactly.
4 people.
And my assistant, yes. So I have an assistant, and I have a marketing assistant as well.
Okay, good.
Plus your dad, the accountant. Don't forget.
Plus my dad, the accountant. Exactly.
The money guy is always the most important guy. Unfortunately, I'm the money guy right now, and I think I need to hire an accountant.
Yes.
Well, I think it's interesting, Anusha, that all the hires that you made that didn't work were because you didn't have the systems in place before you made the hires, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So kind of speak to that a little bit, and for people that are listening that are in the process of maybe close to making that first hire, how important it is to have really that system. And tell me a little bit about, again, it's the AVA, right? Talk about that a little bit and that system of hiring.
Well, there's also the first 100 days, right, Anusha?
There's also the first 100 days, which is really rigorous training for your assistant that you bring on board.
I'm going to go ahead and open that up.
And it's like actually 100 days on a daily basis of things that you sit down and you go over with them, and they're supposed to do for the first 100 days that they're in the role. And that there's one like that for the buyer's agent. There's one like that for the there's a first 100 days for everybody that you bring in, and it's really important that they stick to that, because it also helps build a habit and a model and a system for them. I also am really big.
Can you see my screen? Can everybody see my screen? Okay.
Yeah. So and it's, if I fall behind and don't actually sit down with them and go through these as I'm supposed to, it's only bad for me, because it just puts me back. I need to make sure that I put the time aside to sit there with them and go through the training, because it's going to help, and it's going to help grow me quicker rather than later and get have the whole thing drawn out again.
So it looks like the first 30 days you spent your time, just training them, educating them on Keller Williams, number 1, and number 2, on the systems like E8, the technology, correct? Correct.
And training. I had them watch a lot of the videos that we have online and things like that. And I also put them through coaching. They were in MAPS coaching. She is still in executive assistant coaching and training on a weekly basis. And I think it's really important that people, you know, you're in coaching all throughout your life if you're ever in sports and things like that. And I think it's important to continue that throughout your life, no matter what you're doing, if your goal is to get to the next level. Coaching is really important.
Mm-hmm. It says here that you did some shadowing. What kind of shadowing? I mean, who does your administrative assistant shadow?
I had her shadow other executive administrative assistants in other market centers. I also had her do masterminding calls with other agents across the country that I had built relationships with that had an assistant, because I wanted her to understand more of what the culture was, more of what the, you know, my assistant came from an office where she was pretty much running an entire office. She was the office assistant. And they're not Keller Williams. It was a different type of a real estate company, and she was the office assistant. However, when she came here and running, you know, working as the administrative assistant on the team, it was very different, and I wanted her to see what that was all like within that first 100 days, you know, because when you bring them in, within that first 90 days is when you make the decision, are you moving forward with them? Are they permanent or are they not? So you have to give them all the tools that they need to be successful.
So, you know, one of the things I'd like to ask you is, why is it so important that your assistant is such a big hire, and it's not like your buyer's agent? I mean, can you, tell us a little bit from your experience?
Yes, and that's what I had done, was hired a showing assistant first. And although my buyers were being taken care of and properties were being shown, and we were getting into escrow and had a lot going on in escrow, we were so far behind on paperwork that it just led to an overwhelming feeling. I mean, that paperwork, when the escrow documents aren't turned in and disclosures aren't done on time, and now you're getting notices to conform and these sort of things, like that chaos is very stressful. That's a whirlwind that you don't want to be stuck in the middle of. And it's way too overwhelming. My showing assistant was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed. Everybody's irritated with everybody. So bringing on an assistant actually takes away all of that. That is their responsibility. That's what they're good at. They can coordinate it. They can organize it. They can make sure it's taken care of. And it leverages you, and it leverages the showing assistant to focus on their one thing and what they're supposed to be doing and what they're good at doing. And if everybody's happy, everybody can do more.
Did you do the same type of coaching with your showing agent and buyer's agent? Is there a 100-day onboarding plan that you did with those members?
I did, and I'm happy to share that. I'm happy to email that out to whoever wants that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that we've covered pretty much from the beginning to, how she got to her 6 members on her team. And Jay, do you have any other questions for her?
Not really. I mean, like, for Monica and I know that I'm not using the Keller Williams e-edge stuff, or really a lot of the tech that Keller Williams offers. Not because I don't want to, but just because I've been so caught up in like modernizing, our brand and our systems and processes and all that, and like we're at a really, really, really strong level right now. So it's like I want to, once I get the caller, I want to integrate, the e-edge and some of the other KW models and systems into our current model. So if I had a question, it would probably be, and it's probably not really relevant for Anusha because she never did it the opposite way, because she's only been doing it for 5 years, whereas like Monica's been doing it for 10 or 11, and I've been in digital marketing for 20. It's harder, I think, when you have a system or systems in place that weren't based around Keller to then have to once you move to Keller, because everybody should move to Keller, that's a whole other story, but to then integrate into the Keller Williams model. So it's kind of like, I kind of feel like some days I'm going backwards because I have all these very intricate or integrated systems that are established and successful in producing results, but I don't want to leave out the Keller Williams models and stuff like that. So I think my question becomes, like, how would you recommend somebody who has, like Monica and I do, 10 plus years of our own systems and processes, and obviously how sophisticated we are compared to the average realtor, like how would you integrate the KW systems into a process that's already 10 years old? Like, what's the easiest way to go about doing that?
Well, before e-edge was even there, I really couldn't honestly afford to use Top Producer or any of the other systems that were there. I was using an Excel spreadsheet. So if whatever the system is, I don't think it matters whether it's eEdge or Top Producer, whatever your CRM is, whatever your database is, as long as as an agent, you're consistent with that, and
Right.
you're touching that, and you're following your leads, whoever's making your calls to your leads, whatever your system is that you have in place is being used 100% and very consistently, you're going to hit the success. It doesn't have to be eEdge. It doesn't have to be Top Producer, right? So.
Well, I guess what I would like to find out, and you probably aren't even, you're probably not the person to ask, and I don't think any of us are, but I would need to find out from somebody at KW Corporate, if I call them, and I'm sure it's the KW Angels people or whatever, and say, hey, look, we use Infusionsoft, and I just spent all this money in integrating Infusionsoft into my system. I've got it integrated with my reviews process. I've got it integrated with my MailChimp, my newsletter. So I have all these pieces, but if somebody could tell me that I don't need Infusionsoft and that I can use eEdge and do the same stuff, for a lot less money, then I would be willing to do that. But I don't know I don't even know who the person would be to ask that question.
Right. I can tell you that I am not the person for that.
Right.
But I know where I can guide you in the right direction. There's a couple people that I met at Mega Camp, and I can guide you in the right direction with that.
Yeah, there's definitely technical support that we can get you and get somebody to work one-on-one with you,
that would
Jay,
be awesome.
answer those questions. Because that is the advantage to Keller Williams, is that now we are a very techie company and we're ahead of everyone else, and you want to come on board and utilize some of our resources and technology that's going to save you money and save you time, because it's important to have those systems, but you got to tie a tool to it, right? It's systems, it's tools. And then the next question is, who's going to do it? Who's going to manage it, right? So, well, thank you so much, Anusha, for sharing, what you're doing and how successful you are.
Anytime. Thank you.
And does it, do you guys have any other questions for her before we wrap it up?
I was going to say something. I mean, just based on what we kind of just finished there, is that at the end of the day, the technology doesn't matter. It matters what content you're putting in it and you're sending to people. So if you're sending canned crap, doesn't matter if you're using Infusionsoft or eEdge or anything else, it's got to be custom content that actually helps and benefits the person you're sending it to. So that's most important. But
yeah. I would agree 100%. We always had this saying that we had when I was in automotive, that software is only as great as the end user, right? I mean, if they're not actually doing it and utilizing it and developing customized content and doing all the sequencing and identifying people and tagging, it doesn't mean anything. You're right. It's a useless tool. It's getting wasted.
Well, I'm going to welcome everybody, next month, and we're going to cover next month day 2, and it's keeping talented team members, and we're going to cover creating the culture within the team. Do they fit the culture, and building your world big enough to keep them, and what does coaching mean? Because as a team leader, CEO of your own company, you got to coach your team. So we're going to have another guest meet with us here at Google Hangout and express some of the stories that that they've been going through, and give us some information on how to continue to build the team. And I want to say thank you to Anusha again, and thank you to Jay Campbell and Scott for hosting Google Hangout today. And we welcome everybody to come on board next month.